Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Youth Positively Speaking's new mini-series, where we'll be having conversations about many different topics surrounding parenting and the LGBTQ plus community. My name is Paige Ewing, and I work at Prevention Resources as the multimedia specialist. Prevention Resources is a nonprofit located in New Jersey that is dedicated to promoting health and wellness of individuals, families, and community through education, collaboration, advocacy, and treatment. I have with me Leslie Gable, the co-CEO of Prevention Resources, and Erin Cohen, the Prevention Resources Prevention Director. And to add to our conversation, we have with us our expert, Dr. Dennis Flores. Dr. Flores, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. I'm Dennis Flores. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Nursing here at the University of Pennsylvania. I am a nurse by training, and my focus has been on family-based LGBTQ sexual health prevention. So I've been doing research in this field for about a decade, and happy to be here.
Thank you.
Well, we're happy to have you again, Dr. Flores, for our series and part two. And, today we wanted to talk about relationships and what do parents do once that they know that their child is an LGBTQ plus part of the community. How do they start to talk to their child about having relationships? What do they do?
Yeah, well, even before they have those conversations, I think it's important for parents to realize or recognize that there is indeed a mismatch or a dissonance of sorts between parents' own experiences and pretty much what they know about the world with the world and the realities of their LGBTQ child. And just acknowledging this slight mismatch or difference is key, because you don't want parents enforcing values or enforcing information that is not applicable for the young person's reality or future, right? And so keeping that in mind, then you start thinking about what are the commonalities between information that I would be sharing with my straight child versus information for my LGBTQ child. And there are a lot of commonalities, issues about safety, issues about keeping yourself healthy. It pretty much is shared across these different subpopulations of young people. So focusing first on the things that are applicable for both sets of youth is key. And that is something that most straight parents are already familiar with, or at least have some information on. So it'll be great for them to start off on content that they have awareness already.
So if we're looking at similarities and you're talking about emotionally, I know having the conversations with teens about sex and relationships, and we talk about what you're emotionally prepared for, how to treat somebody kindly, and something as big as consent. I have all sons, so consent is a huge thing for me to make sure that my children, or my teenagers, if they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whoever, that there is consent involved.
Exactly. So these are, you've provided specific examples here, Erin, of what are the topics that are germane for everyone. Consent being one of them. Being safe online, sexting. What are the rules about sexting, for example? These are things that apply regardless of how a young person identifies in their sexual orientation or gender identity, right? Not to say that there are not special nuanced considerations, but definitely we want parents to engage in regular conversations and have follow-up discussions with their young person to normalize these conversations. And then once they've started a good foundation, then they can go into specific areas that are more applicable or something that needs to be emphasized with LGBTQ adolescents.
Can I ask you, Dr. Flores, because I can tell you just in general, right? Talking to your adolescents around relationships and sex in general is very difficult for probably a lot of parents, right? And in the areas of LGBTQ plus, and that might not be something that a parent might have experience with. What can a parent do? What should a parent do? Because they want to be able to support their child, and they want to do and be there for them. What can they do?
Yeah, Well, before I jump into the specific, what are the talking points perhaps for if your young person is LGBTQ, I like how you prefaced your statement about the difficulty in general of having conversations about sex, the birds and the bees. What we know here in the US is that parents are always going to have a hang up about these conversations because they think that if I go there, it's going to green light sexual activity. And what we know for a fact, though, is it's the reverse. It has never been supported. So just talking about sex does not give them permission or the green light to start going crazy and engaging in these behaviors. What we also know is that leaving it as a topic that is undiscussed, silence isn't golden. Silence can be easily misinterpreted regardless of the sexual orientation or gender identity of the young person across from you. So it always behooves parents to articulate clearly what their expectations are and what information they want to impart or the values that they want to impart with their young person. Now, in terms of talking specifically with an adolescent who is LGBTQ, there are a lot of things that parents can do to prepare for it prior to the actual act. Go and find resources locally that might provide you with a specific context of how to get started. If you live in a city, is there an LGBT center that might help you? Is there staffing there that could walk you through, here are the main topics of interest? You can talk to the school district. Is there a GSA advisor, perhaps, who is, accessible for you as the parent? And there are a lot of information online for you to start prepping to know what are the main concerns. And sometimes it's just a matter of just going ahead and inquiring with your young person, hey, how are you? And see where that conversation leads you. We talked earlier about the family car and conversations happening when you're going on a road trip. That's always fun. And what I've heard from parents is if you do decide to have a conversation with your LGBTQ youth while in the car, try to not do it in the first 5 minutes because they feel like such a captive audience. But try to pace it after they've gotten bored looking at their phones and doing other stuff. In so many ways, you want to have them take the lead when they're ready to start talking to you. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way. So, you can plant those seeds, such as I said earlier, commentary on current events that might be pertinent to LGBTQ youth.
And I think navigating relationships with our children, regardless of whether they're straight or in the LGBTQ community, is the same when you're talking about respect in relationships and seeing how, if somebody has a partner, regardless, you're watching how their relationship is developing, right? And we want to continue to have conversations. It's not a one and done type of conversation. It's a conversation as, maybe you've had a partner for 3 months. Okay, now you've had a partner for 6 months. Things are going to change and they're going to progress, and the conversation needs to keep happening.
Exactly. And one of my favorite sayings that I've heard in my line of work is that it's better to have 200 1-minute talks than one 200-minute talk. Because this is not the sex talk special that happens only once in the lifetime, right? You want to revisit, you want to build upon earlier concepts that you've covered so that as they progress in their experiences, as they progress in their relationships, then you can add on more information or try to see if there's emergent questions that have emerged. I think really what's key here is that we are inclusive in our communication with our young person, even if they're not out yet to us, because inclusive sex communication is proxy for parental acceptance. And that right there is key for all the mental health issues that we're trying to, address. Insecurity, anxiety, depression, they all come from a place of insecurity because they're afraid of parents perhaps kicking them out or not accepting them. But if you start putting in these germane conversations and topics where they know for a fact that you are accepting, whether the relationship is with another male or with another female, then they know that, it lessens the burden for them, and you can have a more genuine relationship with this young person, with them unburdened by the secret that they're keeping or holding on tightly.
Dr. Flores, have you ever had a parent tell you that says, I'm just not really good at talking about these things? Have you ever had parents that try to say, someone else should have this? But I can tell you, again, I have children of my own, and you feel like sometimes you're stumbling over your own words, and sometimes I had them even kind of laughing right back at me. But it did help break the ice, even for me as a parent, right? But it did open the door, and for me just to go, hey, listen, I'm trying here as a parent, guys. We need to do this, whether you like it or not, kind of, guys, we're going to go through this together, right? And
yes.
So that kind of, right? And you talked about websites and materials, and I do want to say that on our own website, on njprevent.com, we have all these materials and at our local resources to help parents for sure. But have you ever found that there is places that if a parent just really doesn't have these skill sets, what they can do as well besides materials? Are there places that they can work with someone to help them, guide them?
Yeah, most definitely, Leslie. I love that you reminded me of this point, because not all parents are created alike, and some are introverts, and some are just savvy in having these conversations, and some may be in between, right? And what I always say to parents is, when you find yourself challenged by these conversations, both in the art of communicating and in the content itself of the conversation, you need to call in the reinforcements. And who are your reinforcements? So it might be actually somebody in your family. It might be calling abuela and saying, hey, you were so much better talking to me about this. Do you mind talking to your grandchild? Or talking to that favorite auntie that everybody gravitates to during the holidays, right? If you have that in your immediate circle. You can also, make sure to communicate with your healthcare provider beforehand that, hey, we're starting to go into this area, and for the next wellness visit, do you mind spending time alone with this young person and covering with them these topics that I don't feel comfortable about? I mean, they're there to meet your needs, and you can be proactive in setting up these regular appointments, so that here is a trusted resource who can be the conveyor of that information when you don't have that capacity or you're more challenged about that. So find that sister, find that aunt or that cousin or that healthcare provider that you trust. If you cannot be the communicator in chief, there are people who are paid or are certified to do this kind of work. And I love that your organization is also, creating resources to address this very fundamental issue within the family.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Flores. And also thank you to Penn Nursing and Parents Assist for partnering on this series. As Leslie mentioned, for those of you listening, if you need more information about LGBTQ plus resources within our community, please visit our website, njprevent.com. And of course, we want to thank you for listening in, and we'll see you next time for more Youth Positively Speaking.